Saludos and salutations, Broncos Country, and welcome to another episode of Broncos Talk. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about our general manager, the title of today's show in George Paton, We Trust. As you guys have seen or may not have seen, the GM position has been a very hot topic to solve since the beginning of this offseason, at least for the ones that didn't make it to the playoffs. So today, we're going to dive into how important George Paton's role is, how it's been going so far, and what we can expect from him going into the next offseason as he and Sean Payton and the management itself are trying to build a championship team. Also, Libre and I are going to get into our Super Bowl predictions. You guys have heard us talk about it last week. We're going to talk about it again to see if anything has changed since then. Probably not, but either way, make sure you guys get your popcorn and your drinks ready because here we go. And welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen. This is your first time. Welcome. If not, welcome back. My name is Adan Diaz, and I am the host and owner of said show, Broncos Talk. To my left or right, depending on which way you're watching me, is my co-host, Bronco Libre. Bronco Libre, my friend, how are you doing today?
Doing good. Just been a crazy Wednesday, but we're here.
You ain't lying. Are you guys supposed to get snow out there? Because we've been getting these snow advisories like ice and stuff here in Chicago for the last couple of hours, and it hasn't come down yet. How's it over in Denver?
Today, I'm not going to lie. It was almost 70 degrees today.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so the rest of this week, going into this weekend, we're going to be in the high like 50s to like low 60s.
Oh, my God. And I think the highest for us today was like 26. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, so we got last week is when we got a real cold front that came through. Really cold. A couple of days. It snowed a couple of days. Even I think the weekend before where it was supposed to just be little flurries, but we got dumped with about anywhere from 4 to 6 inches of snow. But it's already now gone. That's how Colorado is.
It sure the heck is, man. I'm telling you, I think I need to spend more than a week there next time I go to Denver.
You have to.
Oh, man. Well, ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to talk about our GM, as I said at the beginning of the show, in George Paton We Trust. That is the topic of today's show. But before we do that and anything else, we have to get a couple of things out of the way. First and foremost, before anything, Libre and I would like to ask you to please show your support for us here on the Orange and Blue Network. We ask you to subscribe, share, comment, and like on any and all the videos we have here on the platform. In case Broncos Talk is not your cup of tea, perfectly cool, my friends. There are other shows on this program for you guys to enjoy. And for those of you that don't know, this is a simulcast, so we are also on the MHRT network. They also have a plethora of shows available to your liking. So please subscribe, share, comment, and like on any and all of their shows. Please tell them that Libre and 610 sent you, and they will definitely be happy to receive your support. Also, if you'd like to follow us on our socials, at the bottom are our socials. Mine is at a 6'10" Mexican. Bronco Libre is at Bronco Libre 5280. If you guys would like to get a hold of us through Twitter and, just give us a follow, or if you want to just ask us questions that you couldn't ask us here on the show, we're always down and happy to talk about any and all things sports related. If for any business inquiries, you can email at Broncos Talk 2020@gmail.com. Also, ladies and gentlemen, I can't believe I almost forgot to say this, but we would like to thank our sponsor for today's show, which is Dubby. Ladies and gentlemen, W is formulated to give you all the energy you need for all your daily activities without all the bad stuff. Now, you might be asking, what kind of bad stuff are we talking about? Well, I'm going to tell you right now. See, W was formulated to give you focus and energy with no jitters or crash. Our formula contains vitamins, amino acids, and nootropics, including the patented neurofactor formula. Basically, W contains no calories, no sugar, no maltodextrin, no fillers, and no artificial colors. W also comes in all the great flavors you see on your screen right below me. Comes in grape. What is that? The push. I'm sorry, I can't see it from here. All that well, but they come in so many different flavors. I personally prefer the green sludge one. That is my favorite flavor. And just to show you guys how nice Johnny Baki and the guys over at Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue, the flagship show, are, they want to give you 10% off at checkout. We're using the code NRWBO10 for 10% off on your purchase at checkout. So please make sure you use that code NRWOB10 for 10% off at checkout after you have selected all of your favorite flavors. Shout out to W and shout out to the guys over at the Nothing Rhymes with show for their discount, and W for continuing to be a sponsor of the shows here on the Orange and Blue Network. I swear to you, that's getting a lot easier every single week. You know, I'm old, so, you know, I kind of have to try to take a deep breath, Libre, but it's getting a little easier. I got to admit.
There you go. I know. I just get tired and I'm winded.
It's a good thing I don't have to do that standing up. You know, sitting down is kind of a blessing.
Right.
But ladies and gentlemen, before I forget, for those of you listening to us after the fact on audio, I can't believe I almost forgot. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button so you're always up to date whenever the shows go up and posted and you get live notifications. And also 5-star reviews are always well appreciated. Please make sure you screenshot and send it to either one of us on our socials, and we will definitely give you guys a shout out. And we are always glad for your continued support. So basically, Libre and I were talking before the show because, you know, that's what we do. We, you know, have a talk. And basically I told Libre that I thought of today's idea while I was driving home from work today. An idea or a topic for the show, you know. And I'll tell you a quick funny story. Johnny always messages me, or he calls me sometimes, but today he messaged me and he always asks me what the topic is for the show. But when he does, he usually puts it in a sentence. But today he just texts me the word topic ? So, you know, me, I always try to play pranks on Johnny. So I text him back. I'm like, actually, I'm more of a Spencer's kind of guy. You know?
That's
I'm pretty
hilarious.
sure. I don't know. I hope Johnny was sitting when he read that, because I'm pretty sure he laughed as hard as I did. And I can't say the word he sent back to me, but it was followed by LOL, you know.
That is hilarious.
But Johnny's always so awesome. He's so great. And he always comes up with these great titles. So, you know, shout out to him for putting everything together for us every single week here on Broncos Talk and over on Viva Los Broncos. He does that show as well. But basically, it was kind of the idea, Libre, that, you know, the GM position has been something that's been really, really talked about this offseason. I mean, I can't remember a time where we had this many GMs being replaced throughout the league. I mean, I named just a few to Libre earlier, and if you guys in the chat or at home can think of some other ones that I can't think off the top of my head, but I remember I said the Jets, the Jaguars, and I think we believe we said the Raiders.
The Raiders do have one. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So it's a very, very important position going into the next year, and I'm crossing my fingers. I still want to hear Ryan Poles' name be crossed off that list for the GM in Chicago, because even though I'm not a Bears fan, I'm telling you guys living in Chicago, I see all the stuff that goes down here firsthand, and there's just something about that guy I just don't like, you know. And even though I'm not a Bears fan per se, and one of these days we're going to have when we get our Ask a Fan segment going, we are going to have a Bears fan here on the show, but you just kind of can't help but feel bad for them. You know, just to see everything that they go through, and they're just trying so hard. And you have teams like in their division, like the Lions and the Packers and even the Vikings, that don't even look like they're trying too hard, and they're getting better, you know. So, and that again all comes to the coaching in hand. So in that sense, Libre, in comes George Paton. Now, I do remember when George Paton first came to Denver, he came from Minnesota, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, I didn't know anything about him. So I had no background on him, but I figured that if I'm not mistaken, he came under John Elway's when he was here at the
It was like that last year. It was
it was that last year. It was like Elway's last gift to Broncos country. And the only time I remember people wanted him out and wanted his head was when he decided to trade Von Miller. You know, it's a move that we've talked about here on the show, Libre, and some of us still kind of want his head for that because we still feel Von should have never left Denver. You know, yes, he went to the Rams and he won a championship, which I'm happy he did. But, you know, that man's heart and soul is still bleeding orange and blue. So, Libre, what are your thoughts about that?
You know, at first when I have an echo. That's weird. Give me a second.
Mm-hmm. Well, while Libre gets himself situated, it's just that basically kind of like.
There we go.
You good?
Yeah, okay, I think it's good now. So with George Paton coming in, I didn't know a lot about him either, just knowing that he was the GM there in Minnesota. And, of course, all the talks of, you know, well, we're bringing another GM from another team. And it was all that Kirk Cousins talk, you know, as well. It's like, all right, well, now we're going to bring in Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is going to come in. Yeah, that's his quarterback. He's there. And at the time, I was like, no, I don't want Cousins either. That's not a quarterback that we need for this team. We don't need him here. But overall, like every year progressing since then, like not knowing who he was to now, we know a little bit more about him, what he's able to do. I love George Paton right now. What he has done, yes, like how we've talked about with Von Miller, but I think as well, it was Von Miller's time to go from Denver. I think we would have cut him at a certain point because I don't think he doesn't going to do the value what he has been doing for the 10 years that he was here in Denver. And there's just that point where it's like, it's time to cut loose, let him go somewhere else. I'm glad that he went we got him to the Rams to get another championship. It would have been nice that if he would have won a championship this year with the Bills, you know, that's another thing is like, why didn't he play much more versus KC in that AFC championship game, you know? But now, going back to George, I love where we're at. I love his direction, the direction that the team is going. And I think with having that leadership, and he's been in this role now for several years, is just phenomenal. And you could see it. And it's also the ownership group as well has his back. What do you guys need? We got you. And that's what I love. And you can see that already here in Denver.
I agree. And before we continue, actually, there's one point of that I don't agree with, but we'll get into that in a second. D-Rock saying Lakers. D-Rock, thank you so much for being a part of a fan of the show. Well, you know, Libre is a dedicated Nuggets fan, and I am a dedicated Bulls fan. And the Bulls won yesterday. So we are not the greatest team in basketball right now, but these kids, or these guys, I should say, are trying their hearts out. They're trying to compete with the best. They're not up there with the Celtics because we lost to the Celtics, but they one day, man. One day they're going to give teams like the Celtics and any of your super teams a run for their money, you know, and I can't wait for that day. KB82 is jumping in and saying, first of all, thank you so much, KB, for jumping in and joining us here tonight. He says, it's great to have generational players like Von on your team, but they often want the highest paid players, which can lead to losing depth in the rest of your team. You know what, KB82, you're kind of right. Mm-hmm. And here's why I tell you why. The second half of your statement, you're right. When Von Miller and the Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos of 2015, because I love saying that, won the Super Bowl, we all know that that's what happens to almost every Super Bowl player, especially the one that gets picked to be Super Bowl MVP, is that all of a sudden they're super expensive and, you know, they want to secure the bag. However, with that being said, Von along the way throughout the years, he kind of learned that it's not all about the money, you know, and I don't blame Von for pushing John Elway to the brinks of, hey, pay me or I'm going to go play elsewhere.
Yeah.
Because he's not the only one that's done it. He's not the only one that did it. And he won't be the one that'll ever do it going forward in the future, So I can see why he did it. But during his tenure in Denver after that Super Bowl win, Von's love for this team just continued to grow, And there's not a bone in my body that doesn't believe that if George Paton hadn't traded him, that Von would have restructured his deal or made a new one where it would have been more team friendly and he would have decided to stay in Denver. The reason I say that is because you've heard him say all the things he said when he left for the Rams. The reaction he had after he left the Broncos facilities, I can't tell you the last time a player had a reaction like that after being traded. Most of them are just like, all right, well, I'm out of here. Grab my stuff out of my locker, sell my house or whatever, and fly off, But Von was like instant emotion. You hear him talk about Denver all the time, even after he joined Buffalo. He still supports PS2 and, still loves and remembers Demaryius Thomas and Cortland Sutton and all those things. And to me, that tells me that that's a player that really, really wants to end his career in Denver if he can, or he might get a one-day contract and, just call it a day and see where his life after football takes him,
The Broncos will definitely do that. Like, without a doubt, once he decides to retire and he's done, he'll definitely have that one-day contract he'll sign and he'll retire as a Bronco. And you see, like how you were just saying, he's out there on social media. He does not hide it. He goes, the part of the reason why I love this team so much, and he goes, it's really not the team. It's not that. He goes, it's Broncos country. He goes, the fans that are out there, he just loves it out here in Denver. Like he said, he had his house out here. His kids were born here in Denver. So he absolutely loves the city. And he says it right out. He goes, I'm a fan of the Broncos. I want them to do good. I don't care what it is. Like, I want them to do good and I'm rooting for them. He says it out there without question. And you don't hear that from no other player that gets traded or gets cut or whatever like that. But I truly believe what he says out there is 100% from the heart, and that's why so many people still love him. I love him too. But I think for me, what we need for right now, we wouldn't have the Nick Bonitos, we wouldn't have the Jonathan Coopers if we still had Von Miller. I think part of it as well is we do have to grow as a team. And again, like I always tell this to people as well, you always root for the name on the front of the jersey, not on the back.
Yeah,
because it is a business at the end of the day. And you're always rooting for that team name on the front of the jersey.
Yeah. And you're so right about that. And you guys have heard me say it on the show before. Like, the only Broncos jersey I own is my own custom jersey, and it's got my nickname on the back. Not because I have anything against, one day I'm going to have the classic jerseys that every single football fan has, your Sharps, definitely your John Elways and all that stuff. But those guys' names and legacies are cemented into Broncos country, It's a form of respect to, rock their names to game day, whether it's at home or away, or to have them hanging up on your wall, which is what I'm going to do one day. And again, for those of you that wonder why I carry a custom jersey, because they don't make my size for all the other ones. So the custom one was the only one I can get. And for some reason, NFL Shop is really picky about if you wanted to put like Elway or Sharp or one of those.
Yeah.
They won't let you do it. I don't know why. But it comes back to, full circle back to George Paton, because after that Von Miller trade, ladies and gentlemen, we kind of I felt like we were on uncharted territory. Like nobody really knew where the Broncos were going. We definitely didn't have any say in ownership, and we already knew that John Elway's tenure was heading out the door.
Mm-hmm.
So it was all going to be in George Paton's hands. Nobody really had any confidence in Joe Ellis, let's be honest, the president of the club. But somewhere along the way, George Paton redeemed himself. And over the last couple of years, he's been able to get these players that have really turned an eye in Denver, especially when everybody else around the league turned their back on us and literally did not take us for serious,
Yeah.
And, one of them, I'll give you a perfect example, and Libre, if you can think of one too, when he acquired the services of Nick Bonito. Nick Bonito, a lot of people felt that he was a stretch, but there's just something about the George Paton did his homework and he went out and he got this guy, and now we have like so many shirts and souvenirs that say Casa de Bonito, you
Yeah.
know, and he just went out and did it. And it's just beautiful, man. Like, it's beautiful to see him go out there and just get it. I will say the Jerry Jeudy one, which is one that a lot of people bring up to me and say, hey, he flamed out on Jerry Jeudy. It should have been CeeDee Lamb. I totally agree. But if you see the way those guys were playing in college, you felt like you could do no wrong, And those videos, before I turn it over to you, Libre, just those videos of Jerry Jeudy doing those cuts and training before the year. I mean, you felt like Jerry Jeudy was just going to be like he was, when he played against us with the Browns. We thought that's the Jerry Jeudy we were going to get. And unfortunately, it didn't pan out for that.
And again, like Jerry Jeudy is probably the best route runner in the whole league. But his tenure here in Denver, he, for some reason, couldn't catch the ball whatsoever. Was it because it was the quarterbacks that we had that weren't getting him into the spots? But if you go back and actually view the films itself, you could see those are balls right in his hands, and that it was for sure thing. I think it's the speed of the game itself is a lot faster than what it is there in Alabama, where he was the best of the best out there, and he was able to go ahead and get the ball and actually run these routes against these guys that are not as fast, those defenders or whatever. Then you come to the league, you're playing the best of the best, and now your talent is not as good as you thought it was. And we saw that here with Jerry Jeudy here in Denver, where it didn't translate, to the league. He had that one game, happened to be against us. Let's see what he can do. Like, he still hasn't done. He didn't do anything for the remainder of the season as well. I just wish him luck as well. Hopefully he does well, but. I'm just glad that he's off the team, and I feel like he was part of a cancer on the team as well in that wide receiver room.
Well, you know what? I don't feel so much as much as Jerry Jeudy failed Denver. I kind of feel like Denver failed Jerry Jeudy, because
I agree.
Through the quarterback changes and the offensive coordinators and the acquisition, like all these new key pieces coming in, it's really hard for teams to kind of try to turn it around right away on the first turn. That's why, oh God, I hate saying this, but that's why the Kansas City Chiefs have had so much success, is because a lot of their core stays the same and they're going to keeping it the same until it finally doesn't work anymore, So, and that's really what Denver is trying to do. They're trying to get some continuity, I don't know if that's a word, but some continuous game going where the coaching stays the same, the players stay the same as close as they can, the key pieces that fit, and just try to make a championship team out of it. So we don't have to keep doing like these other teams are. Take New England, for example. Gerard Mayo was supposed to be the next best thing after Bill Belichick, and they quickly found out that those were really gigantic shoes to fill, and it didn't work out. And now the Patriots, under 1 year, fired their coach and are now having to deal with one Mike Vrabel to come in and try to teach the Patriot way, which is not going to be, in my personal opinion, this is a hot take. I don't think that's going to work either. We talked about this on the show before, I'm sure, but just to kind of give you a quick point on that, there's a reason why Mike Vrabel didn't remain the coach in Tennessee, and that's because things weren't working out. And he had Derrick Henry down there. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he didn't have a quarterback, but the way the Titans were playing, they were definitely playing. I mean, if Mike Vrabel was still the coach of the Titans now, I would say watch out for Tennessee, honestly. But there's just something about Brian Callahan currently. And of course, it didn't do him no favors that Derrick Henry left, and they traded away DeAndre Hopkins. So they literally gave him a team with no weapons and say, hey, go try to win us a championship, And Will Levis is obviously not the guy. But however, I digress. But that just goes to show you how important this upcoming draft season is going to be for George Paton. Last year, the man totally knocked it out of the park, because I don't know about you, Libre, but I do remember a lot of people, especially in social media, that were just jumping, yelling off the top of their lungs, off their couches or wherever it was they were watching the draft, for George Paton to jump up and get either J.J. McCarthy or Bo Nix. I don't think nobody expected the Falcons to take Michael Penix because
Not at all.
I really thought that they were just gonna stick to their guns with Kirk Cousins. I thought they were gonna get either a lineman or a wide receiver or what have you. Odunze was my pick, was my guess for the Falcons, and that didn't happen. But right now, the Falcons are pretty much, I mean, they're stuck in, this is sidebar conversation here, folks. They're just pretty much on a sidebar thing because they opened up a Pandora's box. They don't know what to do. They bench Cousins. He's going to be paid millions to ride the bench. They trade him. They're going to be paying him millions of dollars to go play on another team, just like Denver did with Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
So, and it really looks like Michael Penix is the future for the Falcons. I mean, that those couple games he played towards the end, he played some really good football. And that just goes to show you how the chances for the Falcons are, going up in that division up against, Baker, and I don't know who the Saints quarterback is going to be next year. The Panthers,
it's still Carr right now. So
yeah, Young is still kind of a little shaky, but going back to George Paton, I'm really happy that he didn't jump the gun, because if he would have, and let's say for example, in a hypothetical here, Libre, he would have gotten McCarthy instead of Bo Nix. Like, I would have been happy with it because he got a quarterback. But if the same thing happened to him where he got injured, happened during preseason, I think that would have just derailed every single Broncos fan's hope for the upcoming 2024 season.
I agree 100% with that. And I was one of those guys. I was wanting the Broncos to go up and get JJ, because I was like, look at that. He's coming off of a national championship. Let's bring him in here. He has that mentality already, and he's going to be going up against his former coach 2 times a year with Harbaugh. I go, what better way of getting a little bit of more intel of how he likes to run his offense and all that, just to help our defense itself. But let me tell you, because I was actually at the Bronco draft party at the stadium during the draft, and when it was our pick, I was already saying it's Bo, but we're gonna pick Bo, and I have a video recording and I'll send it to you offline. And it's just me panning while we're there, and when the announcement, they say Bo Nix, everyone in there was super excited to have him on the team and coming in, because we knew that we had a player that is going to win now for us as well. And he just proved that to us throughout this year. Like, he's there. It's going to be, we're going to have 10 plus wins for a decade, hopefully, with him. And the way that he was playing this year. And then I'm super excited for that.
Yeah, I believe it was my cousin, because we were watching the draft here at my house, and I believe it was my cousin who told me just before the Broncos announced their pick, like, hey, it's more likely going to be Bowers, because, he's telling me that Bo Nix was, the best rated rookie quarterback, and, the best ones were already taken and whatnot. And he's like, Bo Nix is going to go to the Raiders. And I'm like, you know what? Even if it is Brock Bowers, like, hey, having your name in the first round announced to be a Bronco is like one of the best privileges you can have.
No, I agree.
Going into the NFL. So, and it's a risk. Some of them have made it and turned themselves into legends and Super Bowl champions. And there's been a lot of them that have come through Broncos country that just unfortunately turned out to be just another guy.
So I just saw a message here from D-Rock come up, thinking about Bo kind of changed the minds. You know what? I agree with you 100%. And I think it happened, and it wasn't at the Columbine or anything like that. I think it was at his pro day. Because at their individual pro days, then this is what I've heard. I don't know if that's true or not, but during his pro day, George Paton and some of the coaches went over there and said, "Hey, what do you do in this situation? What do you go and do in this situation?" And, without any hesitation, he already knew like what was going to be going on. And I think at his pro day is when they really said, this is our guy. We're not going to show our cards. And I think that's exactly what happened at the draft. We're like, Yeah, we're not even looking at Bo. We're not even, thinking of him, or, because you didn't hear any of that during the draft about the Broncos were interested in him at all. And it was like that mind games. Like I think there's even a video out there of Sean Payton faking like, oh yeah, we are making sure that these guys are faked out that they want to take someone else. We're interested in this guy so that they take him. So that's what, like, I feel like where he won over the Broncos with George Paton during his pro day.
No, I do agree with you. And your cousin Juan Marquez joins us, and he says, Knicks of the fix. We are really fortunate to have him. He proved and exceeded all Broncos fans' expectations.
Of course he did, yeah.
You know what? If I
Hola, primo.
if I could correct to that, my high salute to you, Juan. Thank you so much for joining us. If I can correct that for a second for you, Juan, I would like to say that he exceeded all NFL fans' expectations.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if you go back on TikTok, for example, there's a lot of videos. If you Google Bo Nix reaction, like most of those compilations always start out with every single person dogging our boy Bo Nix, saying he was an overreach, giving us a bad draft grade, that the Broncos were going to go 2-16 or 2-15, I'm sorry. And, it was just going to be playing for the number one spot next year and next year's draft. And while those two games look really shaky and we saw a different side of Bo Nix, basically we saw what I thought we were going to see in the preseason. And in the preseason, he looked like he was ready for the regular season. That's what got us in Broncos country even more hyped, until people had to write us like, well, they're playing nothing but seconds and third stringers. That's why it's so easy. I'm like, well, yeah, but still, and it just took him a while to get used to the way the league runs, and for some quarterbacks, they get it a lot faster than others. There were a couple of times where Bo Nix was punched in the mouth, against the Ravens, for example, and he, even though it knocked him down, he got right back up and it didn't deter him. Okay, and that's a very important point going forward for the Broncos. So circling back to George Paton, what I believe, and you guys have heard us talk about it before, about where we think that the Broncos need improvement. Libre and I have gone back and forth over the subject, and we have different spots where we believe improvements are needed, both on offense and defense. And just for those of you that never heard it or don't remember, we'll gladly remind you, we both agree that the Broncos need a tight end or a wide receiver. Now, I don't know if it was on this chat, but I remember reading somewhere that somebody said that good tight ends you can get in free agency, like your David, even if you have to trade for them, like a David Njoku or a Mark Andrews, depending on how their contract situation goes through in their respective teams. But wide receivers, while yes, you can pick up good wide receivers, I don't think that it could constitute trying to draft one and trying to mold him into your number one. Now, time goes back to Jerry Jeudy. The last time the Broncos had a number one pick and they picked Jerry Jeudy, it backfired on them. It didn't work. But it didn't work because the coaching around Jerry Jeudy failed him. All right. And I will stick to that because I honestly think that it didn't help Jerry Jeudy that there was constant changing of offensive coordinator, quarterback, and head coaches. Okay. That did him no favors. That didn't do anybody any favors. If you don't believe me, go back and watch this in 2022. Look at those Broncos and see how that coaching staff, year we were supposed to ride high, and it didn't freaking work. So it kind of sent us back to square one in terms of George Paton having to rebuild everything he thought that while he put it out there. And there were a couple people that wanted his head for that whole Russell Wilson deal, Bronco Libre. But like I keep telling everybody, you guys have to relax because every single person was shouting to the rooftops when they heard Russell Wilson was traded to the Denver Broncos. It would have been the exact same thing. Yeah, me too. It would have been the exact same thing if it would have been Aaron Rodgers a year earlier. So even though we didn't get a guy like Aaron Rodgers to Denver, we got a guy like Russell Wilson to Seattle. George Paton pulled the trigger. And that's just really what it is, ladies and gentlemen. It's a giant gamble. The NFL was like a slot machine. George Paton pulled the handle, and it didn't pan out to jackpot. Okay? Happens all the time. So we had to eat a lot of crow in Broncos country as of that. The Broncos money cap is still on the book for one more year, and then they'll officially have Russell Wilson off of their books going into 2026. But my point is that you guys also have to be ready. Just like we're excited for what George Paton can bring, we have to also keep in mind that there's that small chance that what he brings to Denver doesn't work with what we have currently going for us right now.
Oh yeah, all of that is a huge gamble. And again, we questioned even at that time, we're like, when we got Russell in that trade, and then we gave him that huge contract right after signing him or getting him through that trade itself, I knew what they were trying to accomplish. You want to say, look, we're going to be taking care of you. You're our quarterback of the future. You don't have to worry about anything. So that's why they gave him that huge contract. Like, let's go ahead and do that. It failed miserably. Like, that's it's like a you live and you learn type of deal. And again, having him that big of a contract without seeing him play one single down, I think that hurt the most itself. Especially we're giving him the money of what he did in Seattle, not what he has done here in Denver. And I think that's what hurt George Paton about people right away saying, get rid of George. This is the worst part of, the worst thing that you've ever done, this extension that you did for him. And I still think that it was. I think he's learned this, or going forward, you're not going to see him do this to another player in free agency or in a trade, that we're just going to re-sign him to an extension without seeing any plays at all.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I like my phone was kind of going off and I thought like something crazy was going on, and it ties kind of back to the chat. They announced through ESPN that Jimmy Butler.
I just saw that too.
For the Warriors.
That's ridiculous.
That's where that whole talk came out, because I'm like, why is everybody all of a sudden talking about Jimmy Butler? And for those of you that can't see us in the audio version, they're kind of going at it in the chat between, I'm guessing, KB is a Nuggets fan, and D-Rock is a diehard Lakers fan. So I keep forgetting that there's a lot of animosity between the Nuggets and the Lakers.
Oh yeah, there's for the longest time the Nuggets were never able to beat the Lakers in the playoffs until we beat them 2 years ago in the playoffs to win the championship. What was that? Oh yeah, swept them right out, D-Rock. We swept them right out 4-0.
Yeah, I think he still has the Kleenex from the crying party from that sweep. That was pretty.
No te llores, mijo. No te llores. It's going to be okay.
Well, just to kind of give my quick sense about it, like, I don't know why the Lakers are trying to build a super team, because it kind of feels like Golden State-ish, but I don't know. And
again, it's the market as well. What player doesn't want to be in a huge market like LA, a media market itself? And that's the same thing in New York. Players tend to gravitate towards these locations because they get more media coverage, they get more FaceTime, in that aspect. And I get it, but again, it's like, when is it going to be enough is enough with it already? The Lakers just got lucky because I think the Mavericks just wanted AD for some reason. They go, let's go after AD, and that was the only thing that they did. And I just heard some interviews with some of the people there in LA, and they're like, yeah, they came up like 3 weeks ago, and then we talked about it. Things happened where we stopped talking about it, but then it came back up, and then finally about 3 weeks later, they said, all right, let's do this. Let's make it happen.
But I feel go ahead, Leroy.
And I feel actually like, why would the Mavericks go and trade a 25-year-old kid who's actually the face, like could be the face of the league? He's one of the faces of the league itself. Why would you do that right, like before his prime in itself? Like, I think there's something else that's going on the back end, like that we don't see, that we don't have no privy to. And the Mavericks, like, you know what, we're done. We just need to go somewhere. We want something else. Something's happening where Luka's not doing it for us, or there's something between management and Luka. And I think they're just like, all right, let's just get rid of him. Let's just do this big deal. And they knew that they could get it through the Lakers.
Mm-hmm. You know what? And I missed this comment, and I do apologize. It's in Spanish. It's from Darko Palacios, and
Oh, Darko.
Yeah, I would translate for you, fine folks in English. She is a woman, I believe, and
Okay.
she says hello to Bronco Libre. She is a great anfitrión. That word I don't know. From the Mexican invasion to Denver in the opening game in Denver. So maybe you can elaborate for us,
No,
Libre.
so this is just he goes, saludos a Bronco Libre, saying, what's up, Bronco Libre? He goes, hey, great affection or whatever from the. So what he's saying is that last year was the very first year that we did a Mexico invasion tailgate at Mile High Stadium. So, and it was for the Steelers game. So he was part of that group. So there was about 100 people from Mexico that came up from Mexico just to go to that game and tailgate. And we're going to be doing that now with the people from Mexico. And they come to me and ask me to go ahead and set that up. So we're going to be doing an official tailgate for the first home game of every season going forward. And they're all going to be coming up to that game, going into the game and all that. And last year we had a huge party, huge tailgate, huge success. If anybody's out there, you guys are more than welcome to come up. Just hit me up. I can give you some details during the off season, or if you want to help out, collaborate, whatever. I'm open to anything.
Well, let me first apologize because I thought it was a woman just because of the fact that I read the word Mexicana. So I do apologize, Darko. But thank you so much for your support. And hopefully you guys will take up Libre on his invitation to the next Mexican invasion in Denver.
Yes, sir. We got this. Like, Viva los Broncos! Ándale!
Yes, sir. D-Rock jumping in here saying the Chargers swept us this year, but they're still the Chargers. A nugget is yet still a nugget. Let's talk ball once y'all get back-to-back chips or three-peat. Okay, I probably should have read that first. But let's just focus on the first part of D-Rock's statement, just so we don't get too off track. Yes, the Chargers did sweep us. You're right, D-Rock. But we swept the Chargers the year before. To be honest with you, I think the Broncos divisionally fared out really well because they swept the Raiders, who they had lost to for too long to mention. Yes, they did lose to the Chargers, but that's because the Chargers really got us into really. I think the first game they kind of got us in a bad spot because losing PS2 was huge.
Exactly.
And that really helped expose just how vulnerable the secondary is when PS2 is not on the field. The craziness that happened in the second matchup with that free kick for a field goal thing, I think that messed up the momentum, and that kind of not to mention the pressure that was on the rookie and the Broncos themselves, because all they had to do was win a game and they were in. That's all they had to do, and that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
I felt that the Broncos pressure got to them and the Chargers were able to take advantage of it and build momentum. And it just became something that was literally overwhelming for a team like that.
And also that second game as well was flexed into that Thursday night game. And part of the CBA is that a team in a season will not have two away games on a Thursday night, and that was actually considered our second away game on a Thursday night in the season. The league went to Sean Payton and said, you know what, let's do this. We want to own it. I thought we were going to be ready for it and get and come out there and beat them up, and it was just proven that we weren't able to do that itself. And I think the extra couple of days of getting prepared, especially for a divisional team, is much needed. But hey, it is what it is. I'm glad that they were able to do that, what they did. And you know what? We're going to be there. They're not going to beat us every year, like both games every year. It could be 1-1. Harbaugh is a great coach, and you could see that what he's done and be able to and transform that team this year itself. So, and again, it goes down to coaching. It goes to your GM. You know how we're talking about our show. It is talking about this all. It's just a cycle of what's happening. And right now, the Chargers are doing it in a good way. And what I like about it is that the AFC West is now becoming relevant again, where all of us are starting to be competitive, except for those Raiders. But the Raiders are going to do Raider things.
Mm-hmm. And the even better thing than that is that the Broncos were just a field goal kick away from sweeping Kansas City. And yes, we all know that Kansas City played all their scrubs in Week 18, and that was an ass whooping, but it still counts. Okay, it still counts. It's still going in the record books as a 1-1 for Denver because Kansas City chose not to play their stars. They could have played them for a half and try to keep it competitive, but they chose not to. So that's on them.
Wait, how many scores did they? How many points did they score?
38-0.
Oh yeah, that's right, 0. Goose egg.
A goose egg because even their kicker missed the what was it, 40-something field goal?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like he didn't get it. It didn't go in, and as they say, the rest is history. But D-Rock saying, fellas, curious what y'all gut is saying. First pick, if your guy is there, where are we going? Tight end or running back? Also, who? Now, I don't know why, but I feel like Libre and I have talked about this before. Now, for those of you that don't know, I am not really like the draft expert. Unfortunately, this is not the podcast where we can sit and talk to you guys all day about the college ass prospects and who would be the best fit for the Broncos because, and I'm speaking for myself on this. I don't know if Libre is more knowledgeable in the college sense, but I unfortunately am not. So I don't know. I couldn't even name you a single tight end from the college level that's in the draft. But I can give you a running back. Tyler Warren. Thank you. I have heard his name, but I couldn't even. I didn't even know what position he played. That's how unknowledgeable I am. But for running back, I would probably say if he's still on the board when it's the Denver's turn to pick, and I know picking a running back in the very first round is frowned upon, but I mean, we really do need a running game going. And if Sean Payton or George Paton at that feel like Gianti can be the guy to get the ball moving and, just kind of light the fire under the Broncos offense that needs to be lit up, like throw gas on it, then so be it. Take the risk. Because again, it doesn't really matter who the Broncos pick in the first round. It's going to be late in the first round. And most of like the best of the best players, unless the Broncos trade up, then they're probably not going to get the guy or guys that are on their board. Now, the Broncos did really good. We just talked about it. They did pretty good sitting on their hands last year and not having to move up to get the guy that they wanted. So maybe lightning will strike twice in the same place and they don't have to trade up to get the guy that they want unless they feel like he's like almost next to nothing and they feel they don't want to get jumped by another team. That could still happen, but in the first round it's a whole lot riskier. I think the Broncos would be better off just sit on their hands and take whatever's available when it's their turn.
So for me, if Genty is there for the running back at the 20th position, how you're saying, like it's hard to take a running back or take that high of a draft pick. But with him, those are one of those special players that you have to take him. He's going to do good in this league wherever he's at, and if he can drop to 20, which I hope he can, I say go after him. But again, for the tight end, how we've talked about it before, Tyler Warren, I think he is going to probably be the best tight end in this draft, and I'm hoping that he can drop to 20 for us. And if that's a scenario, and say if both of them are available, I say that we go after Warren first because we need to have that extra receiver type of tight end that Bo Nix needs as an outlet. He's been compared to Gronkowski, So he's that big 6'5", 6'6", I think he is, 240 pound, and he's just a big guy. He can run, catch, and everything. And I think if we can get him at 20, that'd be perfect.
I do too. And your cousin here jumps in. He says, "I only know one tight end college with the last name of Loveland."
Oh yeah, they're in Michigan. So yeah, his name has been thrown out there as well. He's really good. For me, he only knows it Loveland because that's where we grew up at, in Loveland, Colorado. So I think that's why he only knows him for that. But other than that, yeah, he's good. And it just all depends, I guess, who's going to be there, what other teams are going to happen to come up with. And if Loveland's there, and again, I have to see like who else is available at that time. Again, I always say, like, if I'm the GM, I know that you might have some specific needs at certain locations, but you always have to go with whoever is the best player left on the board that you think is there. And if it happens to be Loveland at that point, Loveland it is. If it's Warren it is, So it's something that you have to look at your draft board, how you rank them, and who you think is the next best one available that's there.
Yeah. D-Rock also saying, I say Warren, but sleeper pick is the defensive tackle Derek Harmon. Now, I will say that the defensive tackle pick is kind of intriguing because the Broncos, I don't know where, I saw a headline while I was at work, but I didn't get the chance to read it to see if it was credible, if it was just a rumor. But supposedly, the Broncos were thinking about maybe moving on from DJ Jones at defensive tackle. And if they decided to get like a high draft pick and put him out there and see what the rookie can do, or if they trade for one, all I'm saying is that defensive tackle, aside from Zach Allen, I feel like DJ Jones is kind of underwhelming. I don't feel like he's living up to that par because we hardly ever hear his name being called out. Oh, it was for Malcolm Roach. I think the article was that they would replace DJ Jones with Malcolm Roach and let DJ Jones go, if I'm not mistaken. But I do remember Malcolm Roach's name was mentioned. Now, Malcolm Roach did have a pretty decent season, and he already knows the Sean Payton scheme, so he didn't have a lot to new things to learn.
Yeah.
But I still feel that we need that guy that can match that Zach Allen mentality, that intensity, that, hey, you're not going to get through the middle, type of thing. Because in most of those plays, Zach Allen was the one that beat his man to get in the backfield. And unfortunately, his counterpart wasn't able, or his teammate, I should say, wasn't able to do the same. And by the time his teammate did, then, the quarterback can easily just break to his opposite corner if the outside linebacker wasn't able to breach and, just kind of pin them back. I don't know who Derek Harmon is. I'd have to look him up. But if Sean Payton or George Paton at that feel like that could be the next big star in Denver and worthy of being picked at the 20th spot, then I'm all for it. I always cheer for anybody that gets picked to come to Denver, whether they're in the first round all the way to the 7th round, even though they don't really televise the later rounds anymore. Or they do, or nobody watches them, I think.
Well, what happens is they do on Saturday. They're like in the Saturday afternoon time slot, and then they're just going through. So it's just like the analysts just going through them. Because I watch it sometimes just to see how it is, but it's like you just see at the bottom the ticker saying, "All right, now the select is in for the Broncos is so and so, or the Bears." So it's just. Yeah. It's there. They do have it televised, but it's not like how the first round, like they come up.
It's not
to
Roger Goodell or the whole Jersey thing. It's just I don't know who the name of the lady is, but she comes out and she's just as fast as she goes to the back, she's already coming back out with the next pick. She might as well stay at the podium.
That's true.
I do watch it sometimes, but not enough for like the first or second day, or even the third, to some extent sometimes. But I think that to kind of summarize as we get towards close to the OT part of the show, I have a lot of faith in George Paton. I think he's really good at what he's doing. And I think he's made up for the mistake of, that huge Russell Wilson contract, which is what a lot of people outside of Broncos country love to throw at us Broncos fans in our face. And it's like, that's perfectly fine. You have literally one more season where you can throw that pie at us, because after that, then, hey, it's no longer our problem. And yes, he'll forever be in the list of any future compilations of worst free agent acquisitions, blah, blah, blah. It's not the first time Denver's made that list, and it definitely won't be the last time. But hey, that's just a gamble that you take in the NFL. Okay. You guys have heard us saying this millions of times here on the show, and you're probably going to hear us say it a million times more. If you want to get the guy you want in free agency, you're going to have to overspend. That's just how the market is nowadays. Same thing with the draft. The draft is even riskier, because the higher you are up in the chain, the more important it is that you get that choice right. Because if you don't, then it's going to be a lot of egg on your face, and then it's back to the drawing board. And hell, in some cases, Libre, it costs people their job. So it'll be interesting to see how these new GMs going into these new roles, some of them have their work cut out for them, and some of them are literally trying to build what's that saying? Trying to build a sandcastle in an ocean, but with no sand or something stupid like that. Yeah. So they really have a job to do. And I think that so far George Paton has got them beat. And it'll be interesting to see what this new management does if George Paton's picks don't come out, or when it's time for a new contract, or if George Paton just one day decides, hey, you know what? I've had great time in Denver, but I feel like my time here is done.
No, I agree. But I feel like with George Paton, where we're at, like, I think he's recovered from the Russell Wilson snafu, just with his picks that he's done so far those last couple of years, especially last year. And again, it all comes down to next month when the new league, where we're going to go after, who we're going to go after itself. And then at that point, then use the draft for positional needs. Like if we can get a tight end, if we can get, we'll be talking about it a little bit more, because the stories here and there are going to be popping up between now and the league year. So we'll have plenty to talk about. Like I know like this is a big lull right after this Sunday. We're going to have like 30 some plus Saturdays or something like that, or 20 some plus Saturdays that have no football at all. I think it's like 30, 31 or something like that before the season starts. And seems so many.
Yeah. So ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause to George. Coming forward. So, ladies and gentlemen, normally we wait a little bit more, but I feel like we can kind of jump a little bit ahead early into today's portion of everybody's favorite segment. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Broncos Time Talk to go into overtime. And yes, I know, folks, I butchered that, but I was looking at the thing on my right, and I always try to be as precise as I can, and I screwed up the 2 words. So leave me alone. I'm sleepy.
Hey, roast them in the comments, guys. More comments. Let's go. Give us that like right there. Just if he messed up, give us those likes. Come on.
Yeah. I'm surprised it won't end up on like a YouTube short in the near future or something.
I already have it uploaded on my TikTok though.
Please feel free. It's the only way I'll learn. This is the portion of the show where we talk about anything going on that we feel like talking about. It doesn't always have to be Broncos related, but if we can find a way to tie it back around to, then great. So we do hope you guys can stick around and join us for this portion, and we are always glad for those that do. So Libre and I decided that tonight or today, whenever it is you're listening to the show, we would talk about the upcoming Super Bowl. Now, we did talk about this last week Libre, but I don't feel we got too much into it. But I feel that, a week out, going into this coming Sunday, the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Has anything changed in your mind about what your pick from last week was to change your pick to say, you know what, after seeing, teams or news or anything like that, has anything happened that would change your mind, change your pick about who's going to win this game?
No, I'm still going with the Eagles. Just looking into it a little bit more and just seeing some of these videos that have come out, some of these interviews. I actually feel like just going into it is the Eagles defense is really good. Just going back and looking at these guys and so forth, that they have a good defense. Vic Fangio has done a great job putting this team together, putting a good game plan throughout the season. That's why they're at right where they're at right now, is because of that. And I feel like this Eagles defense can stop this KC mediocre offense. If you go back and look at the season, KC did not score more than 30 points for the exception of one game. And that was that AFC Championship game that they had more than 30 points. And then another thing is you have Saquon Barkley, who should be the MVP of the league. I don't think they can stop him. Like, if they could try to stop them, I don't think they have anybody really on defense that's going to be able to do it, to actually do that. Because wherever Chris Jones is at, they're just going to go run the opposite side. If that's good, or if I was them, I would say run after him, make him stop you, because he'll just throw that PlayStation or Xbox Madden little hurdle right over him. So I feel like if Casey's going to have any way of actually doing this and actually winning this game itself, they're going to have to stop Saquon, and I don't think they can.
Yeah. Paul Schaefer joining us here late. Paul, thank you so much for being a supporter. My high salute to you, my friend. He says, did you hear what Jack Paul offered Saquon if Saquon gets MVP? I did not. Did you hear, Libre?
Yes, I did. He's giving him a freaking car. What is it, a Ferrari? I think his own personal Ferrari, if he happens to win MVP. So it's a $250,000 car. Like, I saw that a couple days ago, and I was like, damn, that is ridiculous. You know what? Saquon might just go out there and just do it.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think the Eagles are going to win because of Saquon, but for some reason, I don't think he's going to win MVP. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. If he's the reason why they win it, he definitely does. But there's just something in me that it's giving me the feeling that he's not going to win it. Just for the simple fact that, to me, the Super Bowl MVP kind of feels like it comes down to a popularity vote.
But if he goes out there and runs 160 yards and gets 3 touchdowns, you don't think he's going to get it?
I'm saying I hope he does. But
yeah.
I'm saying I keep getting this feeling where the MVP award is going to who's most popular or who did the coolest trick instead of statistically wise, So let's say, for example, Saquon Barkley does that, but let's say what's his name? Jalen Hurts throws like 2 passes, one of them upside down and one as he's falling through, about to hit the ground, and then AJ Brown makes like a crazy catch or something like that. And then instead of statistically wise giving it to Saquon because he ran crazy, they're going to give it to Jalen Hurts just for the simple fact that he threw 2 really cool touchdowns. I
get you. I get where you're saying. Yeah.
And that's just how I feel it's like. And you're going to be sitting there and you're like, but Saquon ran mad. He kept the Chiefs from coming back into the game and whatnot, or he did the backwards butt jump, like you said. But I hope it doesn't come back to that. I really do hope that whoever wins the Super Bowl MVP, they won it because of their stats, not just because of who they are or what cool move that they did that was totally irrelevant to the ending of the game. Because I've seen it happen in Madden. Okay, that's Madden. Where's my base? I know that's Madden, but I've also kind of feel like it's happening in real life. But
I got you.
For me, I'm going to stick with the Eagles. Just for the simple fact that I can't tell you, I don't know why, but I just have this gut feeling that Vic Fangio is going to come out like a bat out of hell with this defense, and they are going to shut Kansas City down. Now, it might not be like what happened to them against the Bucs, although I would pray for that to happen. But I just feel that, when you put Vic in his element, which is defensive coordinator, and you let him do what he has to do, that's a dangerous man.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's a dangerous man. And the Chiefs' offensive line, it's not as good as people think it is. It really isn't. And if it wasn't for the fact that Patrick Mahomes his right tackle, literally jumps a half second before the ball is snapped, and it's never called. If it wasn't for
every single time.
Yeah. If that guy got called for a flag for every single time he did it, or if he actually jumped when he was supposed to, every single right or left end is going to beat him at the point of attack, just for the simple fact that it looks like he cannot play like he's supposed to, because if he does, he knows he's going to get beat, and he's going to put Patrick Mahomes in a very unlikely spot. So I do hope that they change that. I do hope that it's not as close as people think it is. And for me, the Eagles, I get it. There's a lot of people out there that don't like Philadelphia because of the Eagles fans. And yes, we have seen videos of, Eagles fans being completely obnoxious and rude. And unfortunately, someone even lost their life from doing a really, really crazy stunt after they won the championship game. But it's just like, unfortunately, I can't root for the Chiefs, and I tell this to every single person that I've encountered to the last week and a half, where it's like, well, why not Kansas City? I'm like, because I'll even give you a better example. And I don't know if I talked about this last week. The guy that was working security at the United Center when Johnny and I went to the Bulls game, the guy that was checking us in, he saw I had the same scarf and my beanie and all of my Broncos stuff on. And he was like, "Oh, you're a Broncos fan, huh?" He's like, "Yeah, well, what do you think about the Super Bowl? Not win the Super Bowl." And as soon as I said "Fly Eagles fly," he was like, looked at me like super insane. What are you talking about? No, man, it's gonna be, Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes. I'm like, nah, man, can't do it. And we were kind of talking back and forth. He's like, "Yeah, well, Denver's, garbage and all this stuff." And I stopped as I walked through the metal detector. I'm like, "Oh yeah, Johnny's ahead of me. He's getting us checked in, him and his wife, with the tickets. So he didn't hear any of this conversation because it was kind of loud, And I'm jawing back and forth with the security guard. And I'm like, "Man, you know what? I'm going to leave you alone before I get me and my friend thrown out." He just started laughing, And we were just joking back and forth. Like, fast forward like 3 quarters later, Johnny and I are sitting in our seats, and the same guy walks up to the attendant. That's, how the lower floors, they have the attendant that always checks your ticket to make sure you are where you are. The guy walks up to her in his Kansas City hat and jacket, and I tap John on the shoulder. I'm like, "Hey, isn't that the security guard we saw earlier?" And he looks up and he sees me, and I put my Bronco hat on, and we're just like going back and forth, bro. And it was funny. It was kind of cool and all that. We were just joshing at each other. Me and Johnny doing the Fly Eagles fly, and the guy doing the chop. Like, it was crazy. And it was kind of nice to be a different fan than a Broncos fan for just a few minutes. But I just can't root for the Chiefs, just for the simple fact that, when I became a Broncos fan, I took an oath, and the Mahai Prophet would be ashamed of me if I ever did choose a Chief, a Charger, or a Raider to go and win it all. And it's the same. And before I turn it over to you, Libre, it's the same thing flipped back and forth. You think back in 2015, there were a lot of Raiders, Chargers, and Chiefs fans that were like, "Hey, go Broncos"?
No,
they were all Panthers fans.
Yeah. So, like, I know the Prophet, Mahai Prophet, and during all the tailgates right beforehand, he gives out his commandments. And whenever we're playing a divisional game, thou shall not root for anyone else in the AFC West unless it's the Denver Broncos. And that's it. You do not root for anyone else in the AFC West. It's Broncos or no one. And like I always say to people, even still earlier today at work, people are still asking me, "So what's going on? What do you think about the game today or the game this weekend, the Super Bowl?" I said, "You know what? I hope both team loses. Like, I really hope that both team loses, just because of the fact with the fans of the Philadelphia. And I don't want to see KC win again. Like, you don't want to see that. We don't want to see a three-peat. We don't want to have them be the team that does it because of the way that it happened this year. because of how many games, like what is it, like 17 games, one possession games that they won in a row. Like we don't want to see that. And a lot of them were controversial, on how they won. And I don't want to have that. Like that, how they had baseball and with all the home runs between McGuire and Bonds, they have an asterisk next to their names. This is a year of an asterisk for them, like because of all of the calls that they've gotten or the non-calls that they've received and you have video evidence of that personal of the PI right in the middle of the end zone that should have been called against them. And then or some of the roughing the passers where they barely touched Mahomes. There's tons of those memes that are out there like, oh, you touched me, now that's a 15-yarder, so we don't want to see that. That's not what the NFL wants. As a fans, we don't want to see that. Maybe the NFL, that's how they have it scripted or whatnot. But as fans, we don't want to see that.
Yeah, and I just read this, and it's from Paul Schaefer. He says, "What are you guys eating for the game on Sunday?" I am so glad you asked that because I know this is going to sound stupid, but and Libre knows where I'm going with this because. And Johnny knows I always do this before the start of every show. I always play this transition, and you guys have seen it on the pregame show. I know we kick it like no one else. We kick it like no one else. Listen out, there ain't nothing like this. I know we kick it like no one else. We kick it like no one else. Listen out, there ain't nothing like this. I can't tell you why, but that transition I absolutely love. I don't know why, funny. But it always gets my mood going. It always cracks me up. I love seeing it. And it's just, it's great. And I love playing it. And probably seeing Johnny's face and Isaiah and all those guys. But Johnny did say that he was going to try to make us a Mile High menu transition whenever we come on the show, but we have to actually show up on the show. Yeah, and the song is also pretty cool, which is why I think I love it so much. But anyway, Paul, your question is, what are you guys eating for the game on Sunday? I honestly don't know. And this is a very good question. I was talking to my brother about this, and we have had pizza. Like there's this giant pizza that we order on special occasions, but we've ordered it like 3 freaking times already for my dad's birthday. We ordered it last week for the Royal Rumble, and then we had it like a week or two ago for my birthday. So we've already had it like 3 times, and for us, for the Super Bowl, like ordering pizza is like one of the craziest things to do because it turns from like a 45 to a 1 hour window to like 3 hours. Okay. So like those places are going to be super busy. So we don't know if we're going to do something at home, something simple like some chicken wings or some burgers or something. So I honestly don't know. But knowing me, it could probably be something as simple as just, eating some tacos or something.
So for me, you said it, I'm going to be making tacos. That's the most easiest thing to make. You put them in, boom, boom, boom. Like I'll make a whole bunch of a couple of pans of asada, al pastor, and just let everyone fix it up. And then we'll have beans and rice. Like that's just a staple here in my house itself. And then of course, lots of cervezas.
You know what? I might actually just go get me some nachos because my dad makes some killer nachos. We just buy all the ingredients and we make them here at home.
Oh yeah.
We could do something simple like that, and like I said, maybe some wings or something. But unfortunately, I think we're gonna pass on pizza for now. And I say that, but as soon as like I see a picture of a pizza or I start craving pizza, I'm already ordering it. So.
Watch, we're going to be talking next week. We're going to be talking about how much pizza you ate. Watch.
Bro, I just ate like 8 tacos de chorizo before we came on the air for dinner. So like, and I wasn't even craving tacos, but as soon as I walked in the house, for every Mexican knows that smell of chorizo. It's just like your mind starts thinking, is it tacos? Is it guisado?
Yeah.
Is it pambazos? Like there's so many things you can make with chorizo. It's like my mind starts going off crazy. So like I'll settle for anything that has chorizo in it, just for the simple fact that it's delicious and it's a staple in like almost every Mexican household in
yeah.
But yeah, guys, basically Libre and I have the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. And hopefully we are right, because we don't want to come here next Wednesday and have to sit and talk about the so-and-so team, winning 3 titles, back to back to back. So
yeah, that's not going to happen because we're manifesting the Eagles winning. So let's go. Fly, Eagles, fly. Andale.
Yeah. And to be honest with you guys, we're probably going to have to call an emergency meeting with Johnny Baki and say, hey, we can't stream this week because we're in mourning.
Right?
We're going to have to wear all black, But I honestly don't know. But one thing's for sure, if the Eagles do win, there's going to be a lot of pissed off fans that don't like the Eagles because of their fans and everything. So they're going to be in a bad mood. But hey, the rest of us here in Broncos country, we're going to be celebrating like we just won the Super Bowl, So I don't know if Libre has a matraca somewhere in his house. I think I have one somewhere in mine. And, we're just going to play some fireworks somewhere and just, hey, have a party.
Come on, sana, colito de rana,
ándale. Schaefer says Philly might burn if they win. No, I don't think they'll burn. They'll definitely be ecstatic. Although I will say,
no, they'll burn the city down. I feel like they will burn it so that they stop them and get revenge. Have you ever met a Phillies fan? Come on.
I've met Phillies fans, not crazy like the ones you see climbing up poles and whatnot. Which, please, folks in Philadelphia, if you guys do win, please don't climb poles or cars or anything like that. There is a way to celebrate safely, and climbing structures that don't require you to be on them is not something we encourage you to do here on the show, or common sense at that. So please celebrate safely if you guys do win. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, if there's nothing else you'd like to get out of your chest, Libre, I think we are done for tonight.
We are. No, I'm good. Just excited. Just a little sad that the season's over. Like, this is the last weekend for a while. When you come to think about it, it's like we wait so long for these games to start, and then before you know it, the season's already done. And I'm like, dang, the season went by so quick. And for us, especially for being there at the games throughout the whole season itself, this year has been so much fun. Like I said it before in other shows, sitting in the stadium knowing your team is not good and you're just there, throwing away your money basically to watch not good product on the field, and then having the season that we did, it makes all the time that we were there to enjoy what we did this year. And you can see right now the way that the team is going, we're just going up. We're still climbing up. We have our quarterback now with Bo Nix, and the excitement, what we're going to be able to see from him for at least 10 plus years as being our quarterback, and hopefully him bringing multiple championships here to us, is going to be great to see.
I agree, my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for us today. It is a short overtime. Think of it as like the opposite of a Josh Allen overtime game. And that's not a dig at the Bills. That's just the God honest truth. So before Libre and I get out of here, we just want to remind you to please make sure you subscribe, share, and comment and like on all the shows here on the MHRT or Orange and Blue Network first, then MHRT Network. Please make sure you subscribe, share, comment, and like on any and all their shows. Ladies and gentlemen, there is something for everybody here, even if Broncos Talk is not your cup of tea. We appreciate your support here on the show. Also, if you'd like to hit us up on our socials, there they are at the bottom. Mine is at a 6'10" Mexican. Bronco Libre is at Bronco Libre 5280. Please make sure you give us a follow on Twitter. Say hi. If you guys ever want to sit and talk about sports, we're always down and happy to talk about any and all things football. For any business inquiries, you can email at broncostalk2020@gmail.com. Shout out to Dubby for being a sponsor, not just here on Broncos Talk, but for Viva Los Broncos and the other shows here on the Orange and Blue Network. And also, Viva Los Broncos will be back this Friday So make sure you hit that live notification button so you get always up to the date information whenever our shows go live. For our audio listeners, please make sure you do the same. 5-star reviews are always appreciated. Please make sure you screenshot if you do and send them to us so we can give you a shout out here on the show. And for those that don't know, Viva los Broncos is completely in Spanish. So be ready for that in case you don't understand the lick of what Libre and I are saying for a whole hour.
Right. Also, this today, I just want to dedicate the show for my cousin who passed away a year ago today. He's always thought of, never forgotten, always loved. And also, today's his brother's birthday too. So happy birthday, Anthony! Much love.
Yeah,
Woo.
I appreciate that. And I hope it's okay to say this, but our hearts go out to the tragedy that happened in Washington.
Oh yeah,
DC, the airplane that went down crashed with the helicopter. That unfortunate accident. I've been seeing videos on TikTok, social media, and stuff throughout the news all weekend. It's just sad, man. And
very sad.
We would like to dedicate the show to all the people that unfortunately lost their lives in that terrible tragedy. Like for me, it really it hurt me because I love flying. I don't know why. I don't know what it is about being on a plane, being thousands and thousands of feet up in the air, and even though I don't fit next to a window seat, I can see from both sides of the window, and it's just great that you can be in a different place in just a matter of hours.
Hours, yeah.
So I know sometimes we take it for granted, especially me as an Uber driver. I Uber a lot of people coming in and out of the airports. Some of them are flight attendants, and flight attendants, they go through a lot. So my heart goes out to all the affected families.
Same.
And we hope that they're able to find peace as they continue their lives going forward without their loved ones. But just keep them in your thoughts and prayers tonight, everybody. But as I always say, please continue to support any and all forms of Broncos media out there, articles and all that good stuff. Your support is always well appreciated to them. Please make sure you give them a shout out, recommend them to us if there's any that we don't know about. But other than that, shout out to Mike for Mike the Broncos. I just caught the second show. I had to watch it again because I couldn't hear it the first time. And it's a great show. So again, go check him out. Mike Carmelini over on YouTube, Mike the Broncos. It's a great listen. You won't regret it. For Broncos Libre, my name is Don Diaz, and this has been Broncos Talk here on the Orange and Blue and MHRT networks. My high salute to everybody. Go Broncos, baby.
Let's go.